welcome to Beyond the Strikes, and I'm delighted to say we're joined by Bellator fighter Jeremy Kennedy. Jeremy, it's a pleasure to talk to you today. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Thank you very much. Sunday morning, so it's my rest day. Get to relax and just hang out all day.
Excellent. Well, hopefully this will be really chilled. We've got some random questions for you, so feel free to be as random as you want as we go through. So our first round is called From the Start, and this is really for us to get to know fighters a little bit more and a little bit about your background. So the first question we have is, did you always know you wanted a career in combat sports, or did you have different aspirations growing up?
Pretty much from when I started martial arts is when I knew I was going to have a career in it. I was like, naturally, I was just good at it, and that's what I craved and loved to do. I just had a good feel for it. So I moved up the ranks really quickly and progressed in jiu-jitsu and competing in martial arts tournaments and all that. And it was more of a distant future that it was going to be like a career that was paying the bills type thing. But it was something I was super passionate about. And then as MMA started to I kind of got in a little early when it wasn't very popular. And then as MMA started to explode, I had already been doing it for, 4 or 5 years. So I was ahead of the curve. And then I realized that I can make a pretty good run for that, So fresh out of high school is when I really picked up. I had a few fights throughout high school. And then right when I was about 18, I had 5 fights that year. It was all amateur, five amateur fights for totaling 8 total. And then I jumped right into the pro scene. And it was like a hobby. I had to work a day job. I was doing construction, working plumbing with my dad. Was still pursuing the goal, training and fighting, but at the early stages of a pro career and you're fighting locally, that's not paying the bills, so you're almost losing money per fight. So it was just kind of an investment, and I knew I was good enough. I knew I had the capability and everything was lining up, and I just made it happen. And here we are now. I'm fought for Bellator, UFC, PFL.
Like your record is super impressive, and you've been to like all of the top organizations, and as you say, you're kind of ahead of the curve, really. So have you seen much of a change since MMA has really established itself in the mainstream?
A bit. Well, like now you get gyms all over the place. I mean, prior to COVID, I think weeded out a lot of them just with all the regulations, especially back in Canada. But when I first started, I started in gi jiu-jitsu, and I had my dad driving me probably 45 minutes just to get to the gym because it was the only one around. There was nothing else. We had to cross bridges, and it was a different city. But I had to do that 3 days a week, 4 days a week. And now, I mean, if I wanted to sign up my future kid, I would just walk down the street and there's a Gracie Baja or any kind of gym around. So that just shows you how much it exploded, and just a whole different culture it is in now.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. I think over the last probably like five years, it just really feels like it's absolutely everywhere, and it is getting the kind of credit it deserves. And hopefully,
which is nice.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully it won't be long before you guys start getting the pay you deserve, I think that's the next thing.
and that's a big topic of discussion, which is cool. Bellator's already ahead of the curve on that one too as well, I feel. And I mean, for profit to percentage wise, what they give fighters to what they earn, Bellator's right up there with all the other major sports. So it's kind of just the UFC, and they got to come around, but that's a whole different ball game, and that's not even my ball game anymore. So I don't care.
Well, and I mean, I've had this conversation a few times, and it really feels like you guys are like paving the way for the next generation. So in 10 years' time, I think the fighters in 10 years' time, particularly in the UFC, will look back and think how incredibly low the pay was versus what they're going to be getting. So hopefully it comes quickly. I think that's it.
every time you see these new stars and new avenues are kind of opening it up. Like even Jake Paul being in boxing is good for MMA.
Yeah,
a lot of people give him flack, but he's indirectly raising the price to a lot of these high profile guys. And Conor McGregor coming around, That nothing's been the same since he came around, you know. So there's going to be more and more guys, just individuals that change, as well as there's got to be some sort of big movement eventually that without just, I mean, over time it's going to happen, but for it sooner, it'll take something a little bit bigger. But
yeah, I agree with you, and I think for me, I always look back at what the key moments have been in MMA history, because it's still a relatively young sport in comparison to everything else. And I think that McGregor Aldo fight, the knockout so early on, it just felt like it changed everything. It almost put MMA front page straight away. It was incredible.
that's when he
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, see,
exactly.
he foreshadowed it for us.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
And so looking back at your career, and can you remember how you were feeling in the build up to your first fight, and how has anything changed from how you approach fighting now from your first fight?
The feeling in my first fight, I was my first amateur fight. I was 16, braces on, hair all puffy long. I think I was in 10th grade. I'm fighting in a church in my hometown. So the feeling of that, I can't remember quite the nerves of that. I mean, I thought I was getting into an amateur fight with headgear and shin pads and whatnot, but this was back in 2009. So amateur was just pro without getting paid. You know, we had 3-minute rounds, but full MMA ground and pound. There was no modified rules like there is now. So I was obviously a little nervous, you know.
Yeah.
Now how I look at these fights, it's what I've done my whole life. Really, it's when you back at how many fights and how long I've been doing this, and I mean, I think I've reached over 20 pro fights now and 10 amateurs, so pretty well 30 fights in total from every corner of the world. You know, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Australia, Brazil, the U.S., Canada, Thailand. You know, so just the well-traveledness is just my life now. You know, I couldn't imagine. You know, there's a lot of people who have a lot more nerve-wracking things just day to day that I don't have to deal with. You know, so mine is I got to go get into a fist fight in the cage, and that pays my bills. I'll do it. You know, and it's I've prepared my body for, and time again the last 10 years.
Yeah, and I guess that experience is so huge in all sports, really. You can kind of see, like, you see fighters develop, and you see them. You can always see that raw talent, I think, in fighters' first few fights. But it's when they've put 10, 15 pro fights behind them, you can really start to see that fight mentality, and the in cage management, I think, is so huge. Like that experience of when you've been hit and you're rocked.
Only way to handle it is to prepare for it is to do it, you know. So it's not something in the gym. The gym rounds will help as much as they can, but ring time is huge, and adversity and dealing with certain things in the fight that you won't deal with unless you're there, you know. So it's cage and experience goes a long way in this sport, and just even leading up to the fight, you know, dialing down a weight cut, not having mishaps where you see some fighters who have under 10 fights who are even in the UFC, just they're early that are sometimes they struggle on the scale, sometimes they make, sometimes they don't. And that shouldn't be a problem. That if you've made it, you should always be able to make it because the recipe is there. But it's just the lack of discipline and knowing when to do this and thinking you can get away with it, eating this or missing this session or whatever. And so like I've made weight 30 something times, and I know the process, and that's just training camp. I know how to funnel and prepare properly with given 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 8 weeks. It doesn't matter, you know. So I think even just getting to the fight experience is a huge factor of that.
And do you change up the training camp much? So as you've kind of got more experience of camp, do you change it up, or have you kind of always stuck to the similar structure?
Yeah, it's always been about trial and error. Like I go off of the last camp, what I liked, what I didn't like. I switch moving forward. The big thing that changes is just when you get an opponent, you kind of gear your sparring around the type of opponent. You know, not necessarily, oh, he likes to throw this 1-2 kick or whatever. It's more of, okay, this guy's a 5'9" orthodox fighter who likes to strike, who likes to grapple. So kind of just try to emulate that as best as I can. but then everything else pretty well stays the same. Just the game planning and all these little tweaking, but the sessions themselves and how I structure my stuff, it pretty well stays the same.
Yeah, excellent. And so on to our second round. So this is called Outside the Cage, and
Okay.
we had a look through as a team through your social media accounts earlier, and it's really clear that you're a really proud family man. And
Yep.
so one of the questions we were thinking was, how difficult is it being able to balance a elite professional fighter career and family life? How do you find it?
Tough, especially with the move. Like I born and raised in Surrey, British Columbia. That's
Hmm.
where my family is. That's where my wife's family is. She has a twin, and we're very, family motivated.
Yeah,
I got a niece and a nephew on both sides, her side and my brother. So the family time is huge, and that's the hardest part about my career. I have to be out here. And then typically, it's not a big deal bouncing back and forth. You spend a little bit of more money on airfare, but this last 2 years with the pandemic, it's been a bit of a
yeah,
big change. So we go a long time without seeing them, but just always knowing the goal remains the same, and then home is always home. Like right
yeah,
now, this is home, but 3, 5, whatever years, it's still going to be there. And we just stay strong communication and making sure that you get your training done, and then they've been coming out to visit, and I make sure I go back and visit, and just having a good balance of training and family time,
yeah.
because all training, you just burn out way too quick, so you got to have a good balance. And sometimes even like scaling back the training to be able to supplement the other side of things, you got to keep
Yeah.
both. Yeah.
Because I think like the mentality side of things is so important as well, because you can have all of the attributes and all of the kind of physical elements, but that mental toughness and that ability to be able to approach a fight in a certain way, and you kind of get so many different things thrown at you in like the pre-fight build up
Oh
that
yeah.
it's like keeping that focus. Do you have any advice on how to keep that focus? Like I'm thinking trash talks coming in and people trying to wind you up. How do you approach that?
Yeah, that's a hard one because it doesn't happen every time. It's
Mm.
just per fight. And big thing is, to me, I know it sounds so silly and stupid, but no matter what, at the end of the day, the exact same thing is going to happen. So it
Yeah,
doesn't matter if I called you this or you did this or this went wrong in the camp or travel, you missed your connecting flight or whatever. At the end of the day, you're in the cage with that person. It doesn't matter if, he's big for the division. You both weighed the same amount of weight 24 hours prior. So it just all comes down to your preparation for in the cage and nothing else. Your worries now, like for me, even I'm whatever 7 weeks out. If my worries now are gonna mean nothing when the cage doors close, So
yeah,
it
yeah,
think like just let it go and just when the cage doors close, being as present as possible.
yeah. And do you when that cage door closes, what's that feeling you get when you're in there? Is it like almost a relief that all of that build up and you finally made it, everything's gone hopefully well, and you're there. This is it. This
Even
is kind
if
of
it hasn't
business.
gone well, it's like you've made it there.
Yeah,
You're there with what you got, and
yeah.
now it's the fun part. You've training camp always has so many. Like you'll spar and maybe it won't feel good, but it's because you were doing sprints the day before and you woke up doing this and you did this. When it comes to the fight, you've had your time to relax. You're good to go, and it's just time to have fun. Do
Yeah.
love it. So
Yeah, I think you
and
have to love it. It's that sort of sport. You have to absolutely love it because you have to put
right.
everything into it to be able to do it. And then outside of MMA, what do you do to relax? Like, do you have any other hobbies, or is MMA just all encompassing?
Yeah, I mean, MMA is a pretty big chunk of it, but I like to, especially in camp, Netflix and video games. I like because
Cool.
recovery is huge. And that's something I've been really, as I'm getting more into the sport and longer into the sport, it's just you have to focus on the recovery part of
Yeah.
things. Like, yeah, when I was early 20s, I would train 3, 4 hours in the morning, then I would go boot around, do whatever, hang out, whatever, go to bed late, wake up early, go train, but your body just doesn't really you don't perform the way you want to perform. So making sure I get to bed early. I like to hike. Me and my wife, we like to get out. We're outdoorsy, hiking and stuff like that. But then when I'm at home, when I'm in camp, I'm focusing on just relaxing and playing Call of Duty and Netflix and watching TV shows and walking my dogs, and that's about it. You know, they're pretty
Yeah.
simple life.
Is there anything particular? What's your like go-to show on Netflix?
Right now, it's not on Netflix; it's on Showtime. But my wife and I are watching Dexter for the first time, so that's
Okay, so you're catching up on all of those. I haven't actually seen it. I've heard really good things about it. Would you
yeah.
recommend it?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've heard a lot of good things about it too, and then so we started watching it. I think we're in about 3 seasons in now, so that's kind of like the go-to right now. You know, we bounce back and forth. We have a bunch of different shows, but that's the one we're on right now.
And I think during COVID, like me and my wife is what I feel like we've completed Netflix. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous how much time.
time, man. Netflix is done until they start coming up with some more stuff.
So true. Excellent. So next round is called So You Want to Be a Fighter, and the whole basis of this round is that I personally think the level of determination that MMA requires is a level that most human beings can't actually get to. So I think you guys are like on another level, and part of it is overcoming injuries and how the determination needed to overcome. So can you run us through the injuries that you've had to face and like what's been a challenge and how you've managed to get through it?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully I haven't had super big injuries. You know, like there's some people that can speak to this a lot better than I. You know, with surgeries and career end stuff coming back, but I've always looked after my body pretty well, and just when you do get injuries, I try to train around them and just giving it the proper time. You know, rather than a lot of guys rush back and a lot of guys try to push through, and those times it's like the extra rounds or whatever aren't worth just dealing with a nagging injury continuing on. You know, the body's the body. You know, it heals itself. You just got to give it time.
And do you think that comes with experience? Because it feels like as a new fighter, you'd kind of feel like if you're not doing something, if you're not training, then you're falling behind where you should be.
Absolutely. I mean, but that's to an extent, you always want to stay that way because that's how you stay hungry and you're staying growing. But there's lots of things you can do. If your upper body's hurt, there's lower body stuff, there's footage you can watch, there's different things that are still going to progress you if that's what you need to know that you're not taking a step behind. You know, schedule out few weeks ahead of after surgery or after your injury, that what are they going to look like, and dial that down and go get mental reps at the gym. Watch your training partners go through these series. But the time off dealing with injuries is probably the best way to go about doing that, you know. And just these guys that like go through super tough ones, that just shows you the love for the sport. Like you have to be able to step away, probably have to get into like a regular kind of lifestyle while you heal. Talking maybe broken jaw or something like that, hip replacement, something big, knee injury, and then to be able to start almost essentially fitness level wise, like over again, get back into routine, like that takes a lot of dedication and just shows the love of the sport of these guys. And it's not for everyone. That's what a lot of guys fade off of. It'll be a big and they don't come back, and you don't see them. They find, I found a realtor job or whatever, I'm selling houses now or something, and it takes the love of the game to make sure you come back. And thankfully I haven't been had anything too crazy, too serious, but a few broken bones here and there and some strained muscles, and I had a nerve damage a little bit. That took a while, but other than that, thankfully I've been lucky in that aspect.
And you mentioned that you can spend time watching fighting. So how much time do you spend watching kind of MMA in general, and then how much time do you spend like preparing for an opponent and watching their tapes?
I am an MMA nerd, man. I watch every MMA, and then now I'm getting into sports betting, like on MMA, because I feel like I'm good at it, you know, because I know so much about it. So I'm following every organization you can think of, and if it's a 145-pound fight any corner of the world, I guarantee you I can tell you about it. You know, like I just watch film. I watch fighters, especially guys at my weight, because even if I have no plans on fighting them, like the UFC featherweights division or PFL's featherweight division or UAE Warriors in Dubai, like 145-pound fights, I'll watch them just because I want to see what other guys are doing, how our division is. Like a lot of these guys are the future. I might see them in 2-3 years, or maybe that's what's going on over there. So I'm always watching any kind of featherweight fight. And then as for my opponents, I like to, especially in Bellator, when I signed to Bellator, I was scrolling through their website and seeing every featherweight that they have signed under contract. I'm watching them, see who they fought, topologies, the opponents they faced. It's like almost overwhelming a bit, but if you got time, why not? You know, you sit there.
It always feels like a killer division, though. Like that is one of the divisions where the strength of depth is ridiculous.
Well, I got signed right when they were doing their Grand Prix too, so like I had like 16 guys to know who what, and then I got signed when it was about halfway through. So yeah, I mean, and I've already fought, and now like the staples, you know, you got the Henry Corrales, the Emmanuel Sanchez, Daniel Weichels, Adam Borics, like all their longtime staples. You got to know about them, and then now they're signing Justin Gonzalez and all these young new guys. You know, my teammate Kai Kamaka and whatever. Like, I'm just excited to Mads Burnell, another guy that trains with us. So there's like 2 different packs in the featherweight division right now, and I know lots about the half that I seem to be fighting now. So I just keep watching these footage, and any featherweight fight that's Bellator, I'll be tuned in.
Yeah, I do find with myself as well, I'd like to consider myself a nerd in it, and it's just the amount of platforms where you can get access to fights. It's incredible. Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, when I'm not putting my 1.5-year-old to bed, or even when I'm doing it, if I'm like rocking her at like 3 a.m, I'm got my phone net. Yeah, exactly. You know. So in terms of inspirations, who inspired you to get into MMA?
For MMA, it was the main reason I got in was kind of the upbringing I had, and then the household I was in. My brother's 4 years older than me, you know, and a lot bigger than me. And wrestling was back in the WWF. It was F at that.
Yeah. Was it the Attitude Era? Is that your era?
Yeah, oh yeah. So we were always constantly wrestling and everything, and I stumbled across Ken Shamrock against Tito Ortiz, the second fight, I believe it was, right after the Ultimate Fighter 4. So whatever one that was, it was around that same time.
Yeah.
2007. And I watched that, and then that's got me in the rabbit hole of, I knew Ken Shamrock through the wrestling thing, and then he got blown out of the water by Tito Ortiz, and I was like, who's Tito Ortiz? And he fought Chuck Liddell, and Chuck Liddell fought this guy and this guy. And then I started looking into MMA. I had no idea what it was. Then with the luxury of YouTube, I'm YouTubing, Chuck Liddell lost way back in the day to Rampage, and who's Rampage? Oh, now they're fighting in a look at pride fights with Vanderlei Silva putting Rampage through the ropes with knees, and I just fell in love, you know. And then watching the early UFC, seeing what jiu-jitsu did, and with me always wrestling with my brother, I wasn't necessarily into like the boxing or the kickboxing. I wanted to get better at grappling and submission holds and all that. And so that's when I found the only jiu-jitsu gym in like our whole area. And that's when I started going. And I wanted to compete. I was competing two months later, and the rest was history. So it was more of just finding it at a young age. And that's what kind of motivated me, and my aspiration to get good at it, and was just naturally just wanting to compete.
Yeah, and I think rabbit hole is such a brilliant description of it's that thread. You follow the thread, and it just is crazy.
This person, who's this guy? And who's this guy? What's going on?
It's so true. I've got a younger brother who's 4 years younger than me, and we literally used to WWF wrestling all the time, power bombs. Like, it's crazy the sort of stuff we did. Did you have any particular fighter in WWF who was like your absolute favorite?
Funny, I liked Sting.
Yeah, WCW.
And Kane were my 2 favorite.
Yeah, I mean, Kane was amazing.
Rock and Stone Cold were like but that was everybody. So like
Yeah.
but like the dark horses were Kane and Sting, and
Yeah.
I liked Goldberg too. You know, so we were all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I still
W,
enjoy looking back at that sort of era, the like late 90s, early 2000s
yeah,
WWF. I thought that was my
W
time as well.
W O
Yeah,
WCW. They had a few different organizations.
yeah.
Yeah, so we were right into it.
Excellent. So next round is called our hypothetical round, and
Okay.
so we have one hypothetical question for you, and the question is: you can only watch one fighter's past and future fights. Furthermore, which fighter do you pick? And getting to know you now, I know how hard this is going to be, considering how many fights you like watching. So only one fighter.
Oh, how do I do that? um, yeah, I don't know, because there's some guys that I watch for career wise, like because future opponents, but just probably in the sheer like just enjoyment of like I like watching this guy fight would probably be, you know, yes, Dillashaw. Got to be one of those two. Nate,
Yeah,
because he's just exciting all the time, but they haven't been too competitive in the last few years, though. That's the only thing, and I don't see it being very competitive with any of his future opponents. Yeah, yeah, and then, but like I like Dillashaw is just because of his style. You know, he
yeah.
makes. But Piotr Jan too. Ah, man, that's a hard one.
Hard, that
I
is such a hard choice. I think if within this you got to watch the build up, I'd go Nate, just because the build up to his fights, particularly
are
around the Connor fights, there was so much fun in them.
and all his one
Um,
line are just perfect.
yeah,
But with pure like technique, TJ is very fun to watch. I like the Bang Muay Thai system. It works for him. It doesn't work for everybody, but he utilizes it in the switch stance and the fluidity and yeah. So I've always really enjoyed watching his fight. One of my
yeah,
favorite.
totally with you on TJ. And I think when he came back recently, I was kind of, because I was a huge fan of Dillashaw, and then being away, I was a bit like, oh, am I going to enjoy him as much when he come back? As soon as he made that ring walk, I was just
Yeah,
like, yeah, I'm straight
yeah,
back into it.
yeah, right on. Well, one of my favorite fights to date is him and Cruz. I know it's a 5 round decision, and not many people rewatch those, but I've seen it probably 3 times just because it was so technical.
Yeah,
And
I mean it is incredible,
one
and
of,
around that sort of time with the Cody fights as well, like that, it's just brilliant.
knocking him in a southpaw stance when he's normally an orthodox guy, like it's just crazy. It's just cool,
Yeah,
cool stuff. His composure.
he is fantastic. His box office, isn't he, Dillashaw?
Yeah.
Absolute box
Oh yeah.
office.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right. So this is our second final round, and it's a really random one. So I'm going to give you 10 quick fire questions. They're either or. So literally the first answer that comes to your
Oh.
mind. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So first one, ice hockey or lacrosse?
Ice hockey, Canadian. Wow.
Yeah. Deadpool or Wolverine?
Whoa, I Deadpool.
Striking or grappling?
Tough. I would have to go with grappling.
Pizza or burger?
Burger.
Yeah, and based on your the fight name nickname you have, I thought you were going to go for that one. Travel to the moon or travel to the bottom of the ocean?
Bottom of the ocean. That creeps me out. I'll be
That
down
would
with
be
that.
cool. Yeah. Be a movie star or a music star?
Music star.
Fighting for $1 million or fighting for the title?
Fighting for that's tough, man. What are you fighting for the title with though? Is that jump change or a decent amount of money?
Exactly. You'd hope so. You'd hope
No,
you got.
okay, then I still gotta go. I'll go with the title.
Yeah.
Because that'll end up being $1 million anyways.
Yes, exactly. That would be my thinking. I like your thought process there.
Yeah.
Submission win or KO win?
Club and sub. You drop them and then sub them.
Like it. The ability to fly or the ability to be invisible?
And invisible.
And then final question, a
I don't want
KO So final question, a KO win in the first 5 seconds of a fight or a KO win in the last 5 seconds of a fight?
That's
Last.
one of my favorites. I would love like a deep end of the third TKO finish kind of thing. Let the
Yeah.
fight really prove
And
that you're.
I think the one that comes to mind, because when I was writing this, I was thinking, what am I thinking of? I'm like Masvidal for the first one, and I'm thinking the zombie KO against Yair Rodriguez, like last second.
I mean, ideally, it would have been cool if Yair was up on the scorecards too, but it's still even crazier that he was behind and he was still able to get it.
I just honestly, when I was watching it, I was like, what just happened? I had to like rewind it, and then it was crazy.
Like, back out, just wild.
Yeah, I don't even know what that's called. it was crazy.
But he practiced it because he obviously threw it with good intent, you know. So
yeah,
crazy.
It was impressive. Excellent. Well, so to wrap things up, and again, thank you so much for your time. It's been real fun. So it sounds like you're back in fight camp. What's the latest on seeing you back in the cage? When can we expect to see you there?
I should be December. I signed a vote agreement last night, but I don't know what I'm officially allowed to say.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, don't say anything that gets you in trouble.
Yeah, I'll be fighting December 3rd, so I get one in before the end of the year, and I got a ranked opponent, so that's awesome. He's ranked ahead of me, so it's a good way to get right back into the mix after that one, and I'm excited to end the year strong with a big win.
Excellent. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. It really has. And thanks so much for getting all the tech issues sorted at the start. Yeah, appreciate it. So yeah, as I say, thank you very much and looking forward to seeing you in action.
Right on. Thank you very much, man.